Welcome back, everybody. This is Brother Meat here. Today we're going to do a reasonably short video for me, showing you an unmodded build for Tristian. It's actually quite simple, but deceptively simple. And I need to explain why once we get into the build. Now, I am using mods to power level a character up, so we've used Bag of Tricks, just so we're clear on this. Also, I have Eldritch Arcana locked in. However, I did not pick any spells that you would have access to, or wouldn't have access to, with this mod. So again, this would be viable for anyone that's playing on the console. So don't worry about the fact that I have these mods. I steered away from those. Same with feats. Matter of fact, we actually only picked one feat. I know that sounds weird. Trust me when I say it'll make sense when you see the build. I thought for a long time about how we can make Tristian, and again, you see I've been doing several videos. I will make another video after this one. That's why this one's so short, so I want to have them separated out a little bit. This one is a generic, he is a cleric, and run with it build. I mean, that's really what we did here. Because Tristian is good for some things but terrible for others, it's definitely an odd build. Let me explain why. So we've leveled him to 20 already, but notice, well, first let's take this gear off of him so we don't fake inflate his numbers. He has a strength of 9, dex of 12, con of 12, 10 intelligence. His wisdom started out at 17. We put all 5 points in that. You're going to cast at least level 9 cleric spells, so you need to get it to at least 19, so there's no reason not to get it to 20. And at that point, putting 2 more points in it to get an extra spell or 2 a day was totally worth it. And it's also a higher DC check for his spells. So he is a caster primarily. Of course, healer too. He has a high charisma 16 right at the start when you pick him up. The soonest I picked him up was level 3. And if you don't pick him up soon enough, he will not join your team until chapter 2. I hate to read spoilers like that. But again, if you want to, you need to rush to where he's at and save his ass. Because then he will literally join your team, and then you can kick Harem to the curb, send him back to the base, and let him level up the old-fashioned way by sponging off this team. So make sure you have XP share on by this point. But Tristian starts off at level 3. Notice he has a Selective Channel, Extra Channel Cleric, and Meta Magic Extend. 3 decent feats right from the get-go. He is an Ecclesiarch, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but this is basically a cleric that does not use armor. He straight up sucks. He literally has to wear robes. If you give him armor, even if you give him feats to allow him to wear armor, he will literally not be able to cast his spells. It is like the worst idea I think I've ever heard. But he's very good at casting spells. So again, I started to think about this. Well, he's not very strong, that's obvious. He's not even really good at like ranged attacks. He has finished with a solid BAB of 15. So he's not like he's incompetent, but he's not really good at anything without buffing up. And I thought about that. I'm like, well, he can buff himself up. He has spells for that sort of thing, like Bull's Strength, Bear's Endurance. He doesn't have Cat's Grace, but he has like Divine Favor, Divine Power, a variety of other spells that can increase his strength or his attack bonus. And I'm like, well, that could help. Maybe that's worth doing. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, why would I buff him to make him from crappy to okay when I can just use his spells to buff other teammates and make them from decent to amazing? So he's going to be your team buffer. He's also going to be a healer, obviously. He's a cleric. And because of this particular feat that he got for free, this is the one that, again, he can only get because his charisma is so high. Harem can't get this until his charisma is 13. This is the reason that Harem sucks. You can use this ability for him to basically, the channeling is the AoE healing or the AoE damaging undead. Both of these guys have it because they have positive energy channeling. So they can AoE heal living targets and they can AoE damage undead targets. Now, the downside with Harem is his heals and his channeling for damaging undead aren't discriminatory. What do I mean? He can heal everybody in battle, but I mean everybody. Like the bad guys you're beating on, they get healed too, if they're living. If they're undead, nothing will happen. That's fine. If he's trying to target undead to damage them with the reverse ability, which he has, so does this cleric, then he'll damage them. That's fine. But if you have Jaethal on your team, remember, she's undead too, until she becomes immune to that problem. That shows up at like level 6 or level 8 or something like that for her. But until that time, Harem could hurt her with that AoE damage undead ability. This selective channel feat basically means that if you want to heal the team, you heal the team and no one else. If you want to damage the undead, which are the enemies, then you damage the undead and you don't damage your own undead. That includes Jaethal, that includes our pets that we summon, like our Create Undead spell or our Animate Dead spell. So again, extremely valuable because this allows him to do it in combat on the fly. Think of it this way. These are your front runners, right? Let's say everyone else is the backline casters. Like Lindsay's using her bow or crossbow. He's going to use spells. I could totally switch over to like ray spells and stuff like that too. And have these 3 up front mixing it up. Let's say bad things happen. Fireball spell leashes out, and like all three of them take some solid damage, takes them down to like half health, let's say. Tristian can stand far enough behind them and just boom AoE heal them back to full if you give them enough levels of Cleric, which again we've gone all the way to 20, so it's going to be a solid heal. Every odd level he gets another die of healing, so it's 1d6, then it's 2d6, which is when we picked him up, then 3 all the way up to 10d6, and you can buff that with gear, which again you should definitely do on this particular build. Now why do I say it's a generic build? Well, you see these 3 feats: selective channel, extra channel, Cleric, that's another 2 channels a day. And then his meta magic extent. He's a cleric, so he has to slot his spells, but we can meta magic them up. And again, since he's going to be a buff bot, so to speak, having those buffs last twice as long, you can see the appeal. But notice his feat back here. We are dismissed the extra channel cleric plus 2 channels a day. You can grab that as many times as you want, and we have at every goddamn level. See what I said about easy? It is literally extra channel on down the line. Now you may say, this is crazy, brother. Why would you do this? This is dumb. Well, is it? Let me explain. I could have grabbed some other feats, and you may too. I'm not telling you have to go this route. For example, if he's going to be at range, because he straight up sucks at melee, let's just say it, his strength is suck until you buff him up, and even then it's still going to suck. So why bother? Keep him at range. At least he has a bonus to it. But he doesn't have point blank shot. He don't have precise shot. So range spells are going to be crap. His use of a crossbow, he can at least use a light and a heavy crossbow. So there is that. But those are going to suck without point blank shot or precise shot as well. So sure, you could take 2 of these away and give him those 2 feats. And I would encourage you to do so if it weren't for one problem. If I did it, for example, I would also feel the need to go from point blank shot to precise shot to give him something like rapid shot. Why not get an extra attack? Because he sucks at it. So why would you give it to him? But you feel the need to, don't you? I mean, you're going to make him a ranged attacker, aren't you? Why do that to a character that sucks at ranged attacks too? Make him a buff bot. Healing the team, buffing himself so he doesn't get killed is useful too. Don't kid yourself. But by and large, he can still attack with spells too. Just give him the spells that are auto hit. And he has those, as I'll show you. So we have plenty of choices here. So the way to think about him, think about the fact that A, he has no armor that he ever gets to wear. He's wearing robes. That he's going to heavily rely on spells. So already, what does that sound like to you? Sounds like a goddamn wizard, don't it? And again, while it's not an intelligence stat wizard, it's a wisdom stat wizard with cleric spells as far as I'm concerned. You have to prepare your spells every damn day. You have a high DC check based on the higher casting stats, same as a wizard would if they went intelligence. So again, by and large, it's about the same. And even beyond that, they even give him Bonded Holy Symbol. What's this? This is literally ability he gets at level 3 that allows him to resummon a spell, much like Octavia had. Remember the bonded item that she has? So she can literally take any of her wizard spells, reslot it, and say, oh, I needed that. I never prepared it for the day. I'll delete that one, put this one in its place, and then poof, click this ability. Any spell, once a day, she can take any spell and just resummon it. He can do the same, but it has to be, of course, one of his cleric spells. Solid choice still. And again, he is powerful if you just lean heavily into the spells. Notice that this is also going to be how I build the next build, one I'm going to show you probably tomorrow. I'll do another separate video. And the reason that that one's going to be different or separate is because I really have to plan it. And I mean it. It's going to be very specific. You'll understand when you see it. But if you just need to have a good Tristian build from start to finish, honestly, you can't really go wrong with just a ton of extra channels. Literally, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more. 9 counting the one that they gave you. So that's another 18 uses of this ability. That's why it's so goddamn high for him. And again, he can heal the team, he can damage the undead, and never the twain shall meet. So, he can't hurt Jatha with this from the get-go. He can heal the team with this, but not the bad guys. This is why he's better than Hiram for this and only this. That, and of course, the spells. Because he has such high wisdom, the spells that we're going to hit with are going to hit like a brick shithouse as far as the DC check. The only way I could get this better is if I made my main character this, and I could get this up to a solid 24, not 22. That's not that big of a difference. It's like a couple extra spells a day and a +1 better DC check. Ooh, ring a ding ding. That's not probably ruining your build. As far as skill points were concerned, you got like 4 at every level because he's human. And the Ecclesiarch gave him 3 at every level with an intelligence of 10. So 3 + 1 for being human. He gets 4 a day or at every level. So we maxed out or get a solid amount of persuasion. We got a maxed out perception at 20. I put a few in mobility, and that's the reason why persuasion is not as high as it could be. But I figured, he can fight defensively. He's not going to melee. That doesn't mean he can't fight defensively. And he had Lore Nature. I didn't give it to him, but they're already there. He already had some in Lore Religion, so he maxed that out to 20, because why the hell not? He's going to be your religion guy if Harem's not on the team, right? And we even gave him a decent use magic device of 20, plus the 3 from his charisma, which was a solid upgrade. The stats you're going to buff on him will be Dex and Con, obviously Dex. Yeah, if you can give him Strength, Dex, and Con, you will do so, but it's really the Dex and Con is that the bread and butter for this guy. He's not carrying anything, and you're not relying on him to swing anything either. So just make sure Dex and Con are high, and give him something that gives him a high Wisdom, and if you can, high Wisdom and Charisma would be ideal. If you do all those things and give him extra bonuses to his channels a day, or instead of just a bonus to how many he gets a day, increase the strength of it, which there is gear out there that'll do that. Instead of like 1d6, it'll be 2d6 extra for every piece of gear they puts on. Some gear will give him extra channels a day. Just for wearing a specific ring, he'll get like a +2. So he'll get like 29 instead of 27 by the end of the build. Again, that's what I would lean heavy into. And now, again, why? Not just the buffs. Not just the fact that he's going to have plenty of spells that are going to be like auto-hit spells like Bone Shatter, Bone Shaker. Yeah, he'll have like the random raise spell, but that's only really going to land at the end of the build, because again, he has to get his BAB up to a decent number. But the AoE heal, think of it this way. In this game, especially for like chapter 1 is a good starting point. You have 90 days to beat the bad guy in chapter 1, right? The Stag Lord. They give you 3 months. Now, I've never had that be an issue. I mean, I have scoured the earth everywhere and damn near got it to like 80 days, and I still had time left. Stag Lord was dead. I found everything I could fucking find, quite frankly, pardon my French, in the entire area, as most as I could, with the exception of like 1 or 2 areas that for some reason they decided to put in map or chapter 1 where there's no way you're beating that shit. So, avoiding those stupid fights, I still beat everything and had more than enough time to finish it. But for those of you that don't know, if you beat the Stag Lord and turn in the quest and say, hey, we beat the Stag Lord, you'll go turn it into Jamandi before 30 days is up. Not 90, 30. So basically faster than a month. You get a magic bonus. Magic item. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to do it yourself. Or probably Google it right after I say this. Point is, time is a factor. Now, why is that important? Why does this matter? The healing, more healing, who gives a shit? Why would that have anything to do with time? Remember, why do you usually take a knee? 2 reasons I can think of. Either A, people are dying and you need to heal everybody up. Obvious, that solves that problem. Or B, we're run out of our abilities. That may be spells, that may be uses of, like healing abilities a day, or your clickable items that you get, like Lindsay's song, for example. And again, if I know that I've burnt up most of my spells and the team has too, but I still have plenty of heals and everyone's fully topped off, don't you feel like pushing your luck just a little bit longer? And again, if you have to take a knee, that's 8 hours minimum that just burnt up. You see what I'm saying? And that's not just chapter 1 that this happens. This happens routinely in this game. So while action economy, if you want to think of terms in fighting, the more swings you get in a combat round, of course, the better your team's going to do. People that swing once, twice, 3 times a lady are going to more likely hit and do damage, and of course we will succeed in the fight more likely than not. Same principle goes here for stretching out your abilities longer. If you constantly have heals, you almost never run out of these fuckers. You're constantly topping everybody off so everyone's full. You're going to push your luck just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. I can't tell you the number of times in my last playthrough we didn't have enough heals. People were wounded, and I didn't want to waste my healing potions, which of course was stupid because we got plenty, but wasn't the point. But we had a decent smattering of spells. We didn't have a ton, but like everybody that had spells still had like 5 or 6 spells, attacks, buffs, and besides, so we were still okay. But I still felt the need to take a knee because people were wounded and I had no reliable way to heal them. So again, if that's all you're using them for, that's all you need them for. One more thing to point out before we start talking about spells is this ability. You have this right from the get-go. It's like a level 1 ability he gets for his domain. Blessing of the Faithful Short. It's a one and done buff. It's 1 round. That's it. But look at the buff. You can shoot it at a distance, so safely from behind your team. You can buff somebody, I suggest one of your frontliners, who needs a better armor class bonus or a better swing, because it buffs both those things and more. +2 sacred bonus to attacks, skill checks, ability checks, saves, and armor. And because it's a sacred bonus, chances are you didn't have a sacred bonus on any of your tunes anyway, so it's going to be a buff that stacks with everything. Now, yeah, it only lasts 1 round. But again, if that's all he's doing every round, because he sucks at shooting a bow, let's just say it. If he's not using one of his spells of damage, he has no cantrips that are going to be worth a damn. You could say maybe guidance, because that gives him a buff to the very next attack or saving throw or skill. But why use that when you can give him this? Yeah, this lasts for a minute, but this is 1 round. And again, if you're in the middle of a fight, buff somebody up, and then the very next round, he or she's probably swinging, so they're using that buff up, and then just buff them again next round. So every round they're getting a buff, and every round they're happy, because you've just buffed up 4 to 5 different stats. Again, attacks, armor, saves, skill checks, and ability checks, which again may not be used heavily in combat, but they are used. Think of some of the spells that you unleash on bad guys, not necessarily Tristian, but your team. Web spell, you get entangled in that shit because you failed your saving throw by pure dumb luck. But how do you break out of it? It's not another saving throw. Now it's a skill check or an ability check. It's like, I need a dexterity of this or a strength of that, or I need a mobility check, blah, blah, blah. And that's where those +2s come in handy. You see what you just did there? You increase the ability of whoever you just buffed by a decent amount. And it's infinite use. Now you only get to use it once a round, but they can only keep it for 1 round. So again, he always has a role. Okay? Now, on to spells. Notice, you don't get many. You got a decent smattering. And again, I think, I don't know this, I think that if you get more wisdom, you get more spells a day. So, I mean, if you give him gear that buffs his wisdom. But I think I checked that the other day. Matter of fact, I have that right now. Where was that piece of whatever? Wisdom and charisma. +6, +6. And this is a solid one for him. Look what else it gives you. If you channel, it increases the amount of damage channeling cures or deals by 2d6. So remember, he's up to 10d6 right now at the end of the build. That gives him 2 more. So now he's up to 12d6 AoE heal, AoE heal, AoE heal, or just damage undead. He is a monster at killing undead. Just saying, he has plenty of uses that Harem doesn't have, or that Harem has is just not as good at, right? So again, solid character, and there's a variety of things you can do besides that. There's a headband here that's easy to get early on. It's only the +2d6 part. So again, healing / damaging undead. Again, if you get this though, this is clearly the winner. It's the same and +6, +6. Why wouldn't you want this on your best cleric, right? Take this away and give him a ranged weapon, because he doesn't ever want to swing into combat. And again, they have other rings like the energy source, 2 additional uses a day of your channel energy ability. And you could technically, I wouldn't do it, but you could have 2 of those bastards, 1 on each finger or on each hand, and that would be a +4. They would stack. So again, there's plenty of things that you can do with this character that makes him reasonably badass. But remember, he's going to have to wear a robe. So find him some robe, whichever one you want. I mean, there's a lot of different choices. He does have, I will say, he has a decent smattering of fire spells. So the fire robe that gives him a bonus to the DC check of his fire spells is not the worst idea ever. And while that's all it does, it's not technically true. Let me show you what I mean. You see this spell right here. Magical Vestment. Read this little bastard. Friendly creature, that's just you or your teammate, hours per level, no spell resistance, that don't matter. But basically it's an armor or shield buff. The shield buff doesn't work unless they've patched that out. But right now it gives you a choice. Do you want to buff the armor of the target or the shield of the target? Always go with armor until you verify that the shield thing works. He doesn't have a shield anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you have to be wearing something to buff it. And notice, this is what it says right here. An outfit of regular clothing, like the robes he has, counts as armor that grants no AC bonus for the purposes of this spell. Why? So once he has robes on of any kind, which I just put on him, we can buff that up. This is up to a solid +5 to his armor class. Okay? So again, a solid upgrade. So make sure you understand stuff like that. But look at the other spells that we have. We have buffs for the team. We have AoE debuffs for the bad guys. And again, even if you say stuff like, well, his DC checks are good, they're not amazing, and we're not going to get spell focus, greater spell focus enchantment on this tune. So again, for a spell like this, an enchantment where it's a save or suck spell, is it really worth it? Well, A, it's teammate friendly. B, you're going to hit more than one guy, so what's the chances all of them are going to pass? You might get one, you might get the whole squad, you might get none. But something else here to point out. Bane counters and dispels bless. And as far as I know, if they bless, if the bad guys, you see them buff themselves with, say, a bless spell, and I cast this on the motherfuckers, I don't think there's even a will check. It just gets rid of bless, period. That's all it does at that point. It's like washes its hand of it, and it just gets rid of and dispels bless. We have another spell that does the same thing, Trying to remember what the hell it's called. Let me think. Oh, on the wizard side, haste and slow. If you were a wizard, not a cleric, but if you were a wizard, slow dispels haste. And yes, there's a will save to affect them with the slow portion. But if they've already buffed up with haste, as far as I know, all that spell does then, if I cast slow on them, it strips haste off. So it's still useful. Same general principle. Okay? So again, yes, DC checks aren't going to be amazing. They're great, though, quite frankly, compared to Harem. And again, a solid contender. Get your spells that are auto hit. Get your spells that are also, even if they make their save, something still happens. Bone Shaker, fine example. Even if they make the Fortitude save, they take half damage. When we get to Bone Shatter, right here, again, you want this one because, again, even if they make their save half damage and they're at least fatigued. If they're not fatigued, if they fail their check, they take full damage and now they're exhausted. You see the appeal. Auto hit, not the best range ever, but again, range is my key point here. You do not want to use touch attacks. And while, yes, he has Cure Light Wounds and Inflict Light Wounds type spells that are touch attacks, he sucks at it. Do not give him weapon finesse. He doesn't have the armor and the health to run up and touch someone on the goddamn shoulder. Stay at distance. That's your saving grace with him with this build. Yes, you'll buff him up. But more likely than not, you'll buff up the team and just give Tristan, like displacement or greater invisibility or invisibility, something that allows him to stay back and not be smacked around by direct hits. Buff up the front line, give help to people with things like delay poison or communal delay poison or resist energy, protection from energy, your typical cleric buffs. That's what he's here for. Even stuff like Weapon of Awe. Don't buff his weapon, because who gives a shit that he might hit and might get an extra 2 points of damage. Look at what the weapon buff does. Not only is it extra sacred bonus to damage, which anyone would probably appreciate, if they crit, looking right at you there, Ragongar, your crit fishing motherfucker that you is, and if you crit, the target's shaken for 1 round, no saving throw. Remember that build that I just uploaded for him? What did we really want his targets to be? Shaken. Why? Because with Shattered Defenses, which I think for him, if I remember correctly, shows up at level 9 and on up, they're considered flat-footed. What happens when he hits a flat-footed target? They have no dex bonus, no dodge bonus to their armor class. It's easier, more likely than not, for him to hit them. So let's say he hits them once. He has Power Attack on and he has Cornigan Smash. As soon as he hits them once, what happens? He intimidates them, and again, the shaken effect kicks in all over again. And now he doesn't have to worry about setting it up. So having that crit land is amazing. This is a solid buff to him. And again, we can extend it, and therefore, instead of it being 20 minutes, it could be 40 minutes by the end of the build. You see what I'm getting at here. This is a solid character. You'll have a variety of spells to pick from. Notice, I'm all over the place. I have buffs and debuffs besides with no saving throw. I have a little skeleton army that you can summon, and again, for the same reason that we had it for Ragongar. Especially for this guy, because he is so squish. What happens if somebody comes through and smacks you in the snoot and you're down to half health or less? Pop some Animate Dead at your goddamn feet, and then do the 5-foot stutter step to get the fuck out of dodge. Why? Because if the skeletons rush the bastards and he takes his attention off of you, or she, whatever, to kill the skeletons, hopefully you can back the fuck up long enough to heal out of it, or have someone else heal you, like, say, Lindsay, or whoever. Chunk a potion, cast a spell, what AoE heal, whatever you need to do, but basically let the skeleton army do its thing and keep the heat off you, right? There's plenty of things that you can do here. Now, as far as your free spells, you have 2 domains. You notice I have more than you, and I can't tell you why, other than I have a mod. So I don't know what could go here. So don't follow the advice here, because chances are I got some of these wrong. But on this list here, I want to say Burning Hands and Fairy Fire, one of these 2 is available to you. If it's Burning Hands, put it there. If it's Fairy Fire and Burning Hands, or if it's Fairy Fire instead of Burning Hands, you definitely want Fairy Fire. Burning Hands would be nice. Don't kid yourself. Extra fire damage. And again, while it has a crappy range, it at least has some range to it. It's not teammate friendly, but he could set it up and burn some dudes and have some fun. But Fairy Fire to me is more useful for the team. It is the equivalent, if not better than in many regards, to Glitter Dust. It's sad that he can't cast it more than once, because it literally is a domain spell. It's like a druid spell. He doesn't have access to it in his cleric slots, so you only get 1 and done. But he can resummon that. Again, remember, he has that holy bond, right? But what does it do? Instead of Glitter Dust, which is a -40 to a stealth check to the targets that get hit, and again, not teammate friendly, it's only a -20. But this is not the reason you use it. This is the reason you use it. Outline creatures don't get concealment. No blur. No displacement. No invisible or greater invis or any of that fucking, minus 20, minus 50% chance to hit the target. Nope. That shit's gone. And again, that's beautiful. That's all it really does. It makes them less stealthy, and it lights them up like a goddamn Christmas tree. If I could get this over Glitter Dust, I'd pick this every damn day of the week. This is an amazing spell. Remember, he is a positive healer. What does that mean? Never slot any of his cure spells, like the Cure Light Wounds, Cure Moderate. Now, that's not to say don't slot heal. That is not a cure spell. It said heals, so it does cure, but that's not what I mean. I'm talking about your Mass Cure Moderate Wounds, Mass Cure Light Wounds, stuff like this. Why? Because, again, he can convert any spell he has into these versions. So for level 6, he would convert any of these spells to this. For level 1, he would convert any of his spells into a Cure Light Wounds if he needed it. Same with a Cure Moderate, Cure Serious, and it's Cure Critical, right? Yeah, Cure Critical is the highest, level 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 turns into Mass. So Mass, Cure Light Wounds, Mass, Cure Moderate Wounds. So again, you just look for right here, Cure Light Wounds. And again, not to beat a point into the ground here, but some of these spells are going to be awesome for AoE damage. Some of these spells are going to be complete nutter shit for like targeting, say, undead. Like you can't hurt them with cold. But well, can you hurt them with cold with a Mass Cure Light, Cure Moderate Wounds? Yes, you can. That's solid damage AoE style to an undead. And again, I don't think you have to pick undead. Like you can cast it in your team, like say they're surrounded by skeletons or zombies or whatever, cast it in the mass of them, heal your team and damage undead all at the same fucking time. I don't think it's one or the other. It's whatever's in the area of effect gets affected however it should. Healed targets get healed, undead targets get damaged, right? So don't use it to heal bad guys, obviously. This is not the same as the selective channeling. It has nothing to do with that. But notice this stuff, and again, we'll save for the damage part is what we're talking about here for half damage. No spell resistance, gotta love that. And again, if you wanted to get some spell focus, greater spell focus, Conjuration is not the worst choice ever for a cleric. Neither is, by the way, the reverse, the Necromancy. Either or both is not the worst thing a cleric could grab. I didn't do it because, again, I don't care if they make the check or not, because half damage is still good enough for me. We'll pump that number up and it'll be a solid smack you in the face anyway. But like I said, he's solid for buffing, debuffing, and killing undead and healing the team. And if that's all you need him for, then he's money. Cheap, easy build, fastest video I think I've ever made for you guys. And I'm not going to tell you what to grab at every level. You'll have fun exploring this stuff. There's stuff that you don't have too, by the way. But again, my point's this. Know what the spells do. Know where his weaknesses are. Like say, if you know that he sucks at raise spells, don't grab a bunch. Maybe get one. Try him every now and again, like... Sunbeam's not a raise spell, it's a AoE beam, like Lightning Bolt, for example. But Umbral Strike's a raise spell, and yeah, he might not hit all the time with it, but by the time we get done with this build, he has a solid 15 BAB, and a dex of 12, which of course, I'm assuming you're giving him some dex-based gear for some extra armor, right? So that 12 is probably closer to like 18 by the end of the build, so that's a +4, so 15 and 4, that's a 19 to his swing. And you'd be surprised how many of his spells feel like they're buffing him like a melee weapon, like Divine Favor or Divine Power, which I think is level 4, like this one here. It's not. It's just an attack roll buff. It buffs weapon damage too. Sure, that's why you get confused thinking it's like a +3 to your weapon or a +6 to your weapon, whichever one we're talking about. No, it is a +3 to your attack bonus. That means your weapon, whether it's melee or ranged, your touch attacks, whether it's melee or raise spell, that gives you a buff. So again, this helps you hit stuff. Same with Divine Favor. So again, knowing that stuff works, test some stuff out. Same with Bless. Remember, it's a morale bonus to your attack rolls. So right now at level 1 for this character, just to give you some frame of reference, when you max this one out, which I think takes to level 9 to get to the +3, at level 9 and up, you'll get a +3 to your swing, +4 to your swing just by casting these two spells. This one will last a long time. This one will last 1 minute. But that's a fight. But I would not pre-buff up for that fight. You see what I'm saying? Because, I mean, with this one, sure. But this one, no. Why? Because, again, you're burning up that minute when you're walking from door to door and from dungeon to dungeon, right? Screw that shit. Fight starts. The first spell he should cast should be like this. Or like this, the better version, the +6 version. Best case scenario, of course. And again, sure, you can extend those. I encourage you to do so. So meta magic that shit up. They gave you extend meta magic at level 3. You should have gone through immediately. You see, I already did for some, and level those things up. So you have other choices here. The hard part is literally deciding what you need in a moment's notice. And again, I can't tell you that. But again, if you stick to buffs, you stick with auto hit spells, or ones that are like AoE spells, like Fireball, for example, like this guy here, or pets. Notice that he'll have access to summon monster 1 through 9. He'll have access to elementals, right? Summon elementals. So he has stuff available to him that you just wouldn't normally think of using. But again, if you just think of him like a wizard who can heal, then really this build will do what you need to do. Now with that, let's keep this to an hour or half hour if I can. So just to show you like one thing, we got a nice troll waiting for you here. Preemptively, let's see if I can find you that damn spell. Where did it go? Scorching Ray, again, a spell that you may or may not have access to, I don't know, but just it serves my purpose as it is a ray spell. Preemptively, if you haven't been spotted and no one's on top of this dude, remember that the -4 penalty that precise shot takes away is only if they're meleeing somebody else. So if you can sneak in with the team or by yourself and feel safe to doing it, you can literally fire this off before the fight starts, and he doesn't have the -4 penalty to his swing. See that shit? I hit him 3 fucking times. One was a crit. And why? Because there's no -4. The flat-footed was nice too, but I mean there's no -4 penalty for shooting at someone in melee. And again, so some ray spells are useful. I wouldn't go heavy on them, but the point's still the same. He's a solid character if you just treat him like a wizard who heals and just capitalize really on those max heals, man, because you really will just AoE heal, AoE heal, AoE heal in some fights, because that's all you can do to keep alive. And God forbid, if you guys are doing the last Aslanti mode, where you have one save file, you can't scum save, this would be the build I'd do for him. Why? Because you can't die. You die, the game's over. Sorry, son. You just wasted God knows how many hours fighting the last Aslanti mode. So you have to keep your main dude alive, and he can do it better than anybody if all you do is do selective channeling, which he has already, and extra channeling, which you can pick at every goddamn feat pick, which you should do. With that, though, my name is Brother Mean. Please like, subscribe, comment down below on this craptastic build. I'll see you tomorrow for the freaky deaky one, and it'll also be unmodded as well. I think you'll like the other one too. With that, I'll see you soon. Bye now.